but then have real problems. Well, the family of one young serviceman found hanged after a tour of Afghanistan believe the system let him down in his darkest hour of need.
Private Lee Bonsel's mother believes he simply couldn't cope after his best friend was shot dead during a gunfight with the Taliban. As Lee slipped deeper and deeper into depression, she says the army failed to pick up on the warning signs.
In a moment, we're going to be hearing from one veteran who says Lee's story is just the tip of the iceberg. First, though, David Hurst has our main story.
He looks as if he doesn't have a care in the world. But less than 24 hours after this picture was taken, Lee Bonsell was found hanged at his home. Unable to cope with life after serving in Afghanistan. His family also accused the army of not doing enough to help him overcome his post-traumatic stress.
When he was in the army, he received no help, he had no counselling. And I do know that when he came out of the army, he had no counselling, no help. You know, there should be something out there for veterans to be able to, you know, express themselves, but they're taught to be so hard and then to express their feelings. They can't do it.
The demons which drove Lee to his death began when his best friend, Private Andrew Cutts, was killed by the Taliban in 2006. The pair, seen here in Afghanistan, served together in the Royal Logistic Corps. But after his friend's death, Private Bonsell went absent without leave and took an overdose of painkillers. He ended up serving 3 weeks in a military prison and was discharged from the army.
Show me all the cards we've got.
Family and friends say he was never the same again.
And he'd do strange things, and it was always to do with the army. His friend said one day they saw him and he'd got all his army photos all across the dashboard of his car.
Tonight, the Ministry of Defence told Calendar that it won't discuss individual cases like that of Lee Bonsell. In a statement, a spokeswoman said, "The mental health of service personnel is a top priority, and we have robust systems in place to identify and treat those with mental health issues, including when deployed on operations."
I'm not trying to apportion blame. That's not going to bring him back. But if we can get these answers and they do put things in place and it helps, if it helps one more person, I'm happy.
I've lost my husband. His beautiful mum and dad have lost their son, and their family have lost a beautiful family member. You know, we're lost without him.
Well, a little earlier in the studio, I spoke to Army veteran Bob Paxman, who battled with PTSD himself and went on to set up the support group Talking Two Minds. I asked him if Lee's problems were typical.
Absolutely. It's another unseen casualty of conflict. We're seeing this on a quite regular basis now. If we take the Falklands conflict, 12,000 people involved in the Falklands conflict over a space of a couple of weeks, 256 killed, and in the 30 years since the Falklands there's been well over 300 that have committed suicide, and that's not including the numbers that have literally drunk themselves to death. They haven't been taken into account either, so there's absolute tragedy again each time one of the guys dies.
What kind of condition are the lads in when they come back and you first see them?
Some of the things are quite apparent. A 1,000-yard stare. Family members reporting that the person has actually changed to the point where they're not talking, they're not sharing what's happened. They literally start to close down. So there's obviously psychological changes that have happened to the individuals.
Whose fault is it then that these lads are coming back in this condition?
Basically, what's happening is they're not looking at alternative approaches. They're taking the medical model as it is and looking at nothing else. Well, the military know that we're here, the military know that we're getting fantastic results, and it really should be a case of the government and the military now paying attention to what we're doing, having a look at what we've produced and the results that we're getting.
So how do you set about helping someone who comes back after seeing the horrors of losing their comrades? How do you start getting someone back on track?
Well, the first thing that we do is literally build rapport with them to the point where they're comfortable to talk about stuff. We do not focus in any shape or form on the trauma. that is completely irrelevant. The story is irrelevant to us. What we're looking for is the root cause of the problem holistically. So we're going back to the very first time unconsciously where they created a series of negative emotions, and we help the client reframe those negative emotions at root cause, which is a million miles away from the presenting trauma. Once they've done that, we pull the whole problem inside out. Therefore, all of the symptomology disappears very, very quickly.
Are we going to see more and more cases of this trauma coming through in a delayed sense because of what's happening in Afghanistan?
Absolutely. We're looking at, on average, about 14 years for people to present post-service for PTSD, severe stress-related conditions. So if we're looking at the fact that we've been in Afghanistan for 10 years, Iraq for 10 years, we've had guys doing back-to-back tours, it naturally follows that we haven't even hit the first wave of, if you like, unseen casualties that are coming through.
Well, Bob, we've had your website up on our screen for some time, and people can then go to you in confidence. It's a confidential service to get help that they desperately need. Thanks so much for coming and seeing us.
Thank you.